Hi everyone, welcome to another video. I wanted to make another video to talk about another Spellbreaker build that I come up with. So as you guys know, I main a warrior. I pretty much only play warrior. I have some other characters, but I barely play them. And so I love to come up with new warrior builds. I just think that warrior has so much build diversity potential. And so I like to talk about this, and primarily power options, because I don't really like playing with conditions, and so I really wanted to talk about this. And I had this idea a while ago, because I love when you enhance the Warhorn on the warrior. I just love how awesome that is, being supportive warrior. And I love how the banners have potential to be supportive and everything. And so I came up with this supportive warrior build, but that really worked better just as a core warrior. But I maybe will talk about that in a different video if you guys want it. But I did come up with a more on the supportive side Spellbreaker. So and this one you're going to actually sacrifice some of the damage that you would be doing with my last, and I was using the dual axis build that I had posted in a previous video for a long time, but I have modified that one to come up with this new build, and I really like this one. Okay, so let's talk about it. First of all, we've got dual axes for the first weapon set, and then second of all, on the second weapon set, we got dagger and warhorn. Okay, so the Warhorn is going to give you some extra support abilities, and the dagger is going to allow you a little bit of CC, and then also removing boons, which the Spellbreaker is so good at anyway. So then for the healing skill, we've got natural healing. I just love natural healing. Okay, and you could easily go to the limit. If you go to the limit, it's going to support nearby allies, so it's going to help them gain some endurance and everything, and that would be supportive, but it's less healing, and it does have a casting time that's almost the same as natural healing. So so as far as to the limit, you could use it. I prefer natural healing. It's just so good. Featherfoot Grace, I always have to use Featherfoot Grace. It's just definitely one of my favorite warrior skills of all time. Then we've got the break enchantments, and I love this skill, by the way. It works so well for just shattering people's boons. Unblockable, removing 2 boons, and it does quite a bit of damage if they actually have a boon. So definitely you don't want to use it against enemies that don't have boons, but if they do, and increasingly we're seeing enemies that apply boons to themselves. For example, Bloomhunger and the Swampland Fractal will apply 25 stacks of might to itself consistently. And so you can actually go up and break enchantments, and it will end up dealing quite a bit of damage, and then providing that boon removal. If you're using the axes, if you're using the daggers, it's not as much of an issue, unless there are a lot of boons, but still. Then, in the last one, I was able to actually get imminent threat into this build. I like the idea of this skill, but I really couldn't find any use for it before, particularly because it's got a 35-second cooldown. It's quite long, I think. It's, I believe it's the longest cooldown. Yeah, it's the longest cooldown of any Spellbreaker skill, except for, of course, Winds of Disenchantment. But for the imminent threat, you got the taunt, so you can kind of pull aggro away from your allies. Okay, and this is where it starts to get into the supportive bit. Because up until here, we're just talking about boon removal and healing, and just the axes are damage weapons anyway. So, but this is, you kind of pull some aggro over here, and then this also helps you gain adrenaline. So when you're using this skill, this is primarily going to be when you're using the other weapon set, because with the dagger and warhorn, you're going to have a hard time gaining adrenaline. You only got the dagger skills, and of course the burst skill, but the warhorn skills don't give you any adrenaline, which is gonna kind of be a problem. But if you use imminent threat, then you could just gain a quick boost of adrenaline and then use your burst skill, which will then remove boons, and is also unblockable. So very cool. Also retaliation is a pretty good boon to have on yourself. Then you've got the battle standard, and as you can see, this is also applying healing, so pretty cool. I just love the idea of banners, okay, and just if you really wanted to replace imminent threat, if you really don't like that, or perhaps break enchantments, you can replace it with a banner. My favorite ones are banner of strength and discipline, but you could easily go banner of defense if you feel your team needs it, or of course banner of tactics. That especially is helpful if you do to the limit as well. I do like to allow for a bit of variation in my builds, but yeah, I've got the battle standard here. Now, you could run, like, if you need some Condi Cleanse and you plan on switching weapons a lot, you could run the Brawler's Recovery and instead choose Signet of Rage for your extra adrenaline. But that's kind of getting into modifying the build a whole ton, and you don't really need to do that. So, Battle Standard I love to take, especially in Fractals, because sometimes a lot of people get down, and sometimes you can kind of save the day, and you bring down the Battle Standard and everybody gets back up. Very, very cool. So that's it for the skills. Okay, let's talk about the traits. Now, I wanted to run Tactics, because Tactics, for those of you that are new to Warrior or don't play Warriors a lot, Tactics is mainly Warriors' support build. Okay, you've got Arms, which focuses kind of like on conditions, I believe, and just using different weapons. You got Discipline, which focuses on weapon swapping. A lot of things are based on weapon swapping, and using bursts occasionally. Yeah. And then Strength is like your raw damage, I believe. And then Defense is, of course, survivability. But Tactics is the support trait line. So, first of all, the minor trait is where you're going to have the determined revival, where you're going to take less damage while you're reviving an ally. That's pretty good. Next, you're going to have quick breathing. Now, this is very, very synergetic with the whole idea of being a supportive warrior. I just love this idea. It gives you plenty of group, just party Condi Cleanse with the warrior, or with the Warhorns, and just very cool. I just can't get over how awesome this is. Allows this. Okay, so Charge applies 10 seconds of swiftness, and it recharges in 12 seconds, which means you can almost maintain 100% swiftness uptime. As for Vigor, it does take 16% or 16 seconds to recharge when you use Call to Arms. Also, I think some stuff is going on in map chat. I'm not even gonna bring it up anymore. Okay, so sorry, we're gonna move this to the corner. So then we've got Reviver's Might. So when you successfully revive an ally, or when you rally, you're gonna gain, you're gonna heal and then grant might to your nearby allies, which is really cool. Then you've got a couple of options here. Either Shake It Off, or sorry, Shrug It Off, where you can like automatically remove conditions from your parties. It's a lesser Shake It Off, so it only removes 1. Normal Shake It Off removes 2, but it's like a free Condi Cleanse there for the group. I went with Empower Allies, which increases the power of nearby allies by 150 points. That's just a flat power increase to anybody standing near you in combat. It's pretty good. Then you've got gain healing power for each stack of might you have, so we're going to actually get into that in a second. Where actually this is pretty useful. And then I've got Powerful Synergy, and you could actually go any way here. I've got Powerful Synergy, and that really works well with the fact that these Warhorn skills, actually it's only Call to Arms, that's a combo finisher, which is a blast, and then you've also got a leap in here, an Aura Slicer, and then also in Breaching Strike. And then if you switch to axes, you've got 15 whirl finishers, which is so cool. You have anything, you also have a physical projectile, and then another whirl on axe 2. So, and then a leap on axe burst. So you've got so many things there. So many combo finishers. So when you do that, the effects are doubled. Okay, so I've seen healing bolts, or like poison bolts or whatever. It just depends on what they are, come out of the axe whirls. And it's just very, very powerful. Another one you could do is Vigorous Shouts. So if you wanted to do this and then run, instead of Break Enchantments, you could perhaps run Shake It Off. And that would, if you run that and then you choose this, then it's going to heal nearby allies, and it's also going to give you Adrenaline, which would help with this. And then you can also use the Shrug It Off, and then you gain additional just group-wide healing whenever you have a single condition. Pretty useful. So that's another bit of variation that you could add. You could also do Phalanx Strength, because with this build you're going to be gaining a lot of might. So you can also help out your party with the Phalanx Strength. They did nerf it, but I think it's still useful. It doesn't mean it's optimal for raids, but you're still going to be helping out your allies with Phalanx Strength. And I think that's really the point of the trait, is it's not meant to be the only choice there, but it does give the warrior some ability to share might. That's really good. So the second trait line is Discipline. And the first thing is where you gain Adrenaline on weapon swap. This is really going to help, especially if the enemy's got boons and you're having a hard time with the gaining Adrenaline. Maybe your axe skills are on cooldown, you just use the burst, full counter, whatever. Then when you swap weapons, you're going to gain Adrenaline. Perhaps you could use Breaching Strike. That would help. Next, you've got Warrior Sprint. That makes it so all your movement skills, which this build contains 2, remove immobilization. So if you're immobilized, you can instantly just use one of your burst skills, and it will remove the immobilization. In addition, you can run faster while you're wielding melee weapons. Very useful, in my opinion. Instead, if you wanted to, you could use Vengeful Return, which means that the warrior's third down skill here, Vengeance, that means if you kill somebody, then I believe that you're just guaranteed to rally. I don't know, I don't really know if it's, I don't know if it's a percentage increase or if it's just a percentage. So I don't know if it's just like a 100% chance to rally, or if it's a 100% increased chance to rally, meaning that you get 50% chance. I think it's just a flat 100, but I haven't really experimented with it a lot, so I don't know. But anyway, so then you've got weapon swapping recharges faster. Now, if you don't have this, I don't actually know how fast it recharges, but it's too slow. It's really slow if you want to swap weapons a lot. You've also got the Inspiring Battle Standard. That means that when you take this, then it's going to also heal your allies. That's really cool. And, of course, when you gain might, you're going to be gaining extra healing power. So I believe the regeneration uses healing power. I'm not exactly sure. But it also means that if you wanted to swap this out for another banner, that it would also heal your allies. So, very useful. If you don't want to take Battle Standard, then you could instead probably do Brawler's Recovery, where you would just remove your conditions. Destruction of the Empowered probably would not be that useful, because you're going to be removing a lot of boons as a Spellbreaker, so it's not that great in that regard. But if you just want to avoid using boons, if they have a lot of boons and you don't have the capacity to remove all of them, then you could do that, and it makes you do extra damage until you get to remove them. However, I have Inspiring Battle Standard. I think it's really useful. It heals the allies. It really helps, I think, a lot. Then when you weapon swap, you gain might. But the main part of this is that it reduces the recharge of your burst skills by 15%. That means that full counter and your regular thing are going to recharge in 6 3/4 seconds. That's pretty good. I mean, that is just really good. I just love running that. Then you've got the Axe Mastery, which I mentioned in the previous build, of course. It's got extra ferocity, which you're going to need. You are sacrificing a bit of damage since you're not going peak performance in this build. But it's very good for generating adrenaline with axes, and being able to do that whirling axe every 12 seconds is pretty powerful. If you wanted to run different weapons, then you could easily do Burst Mastery. If you wanted to go like a longbow, or greatsword perhaps, or hammer even. Hammer has a lot of boon removal because of Spellbreaker. So it's got 3 skills that can do that. I wouldn't recommend it without taking strength, but I mean, you could. You definitely could run hammer, maybe even mace. for the extra boon removal, and then you could do Burst Mastery, which would make them restore some adrenaline, and then also make them do more damage. So, very powerful there, but I'm using Axe Mastery. Last of all, we have Spellbreaker, and you've got the Pure Strike, the standard extra critical damage. I think that's pretty much the most useful in this line. Then, it doesn't really matter the next one you take. You could choose Sun and Moon Style, which would mean that you do quickness, that you can actually gain quickness every 5 seconds, maintaining 60% quickness uptime for yourself, which is pretty cool. However, you don't need to choose that, and you don't have the offhand dagger, so you're going to be healing less. However, one thing that you could do is maybe run Sun and Moon Style, and instead of having dual axes, you could have dual daggers. And you could have Dagger Warhorn and Dagger Dagger. And then you could run the Sun and Moon Style, and that way you could easily synergize with that other weapon, which I might actually start using. I just thought of that right now. And then the last one is Magebane Tether. So this is where you're going to gain a lot of might, and this is so good, because one Magebane Tether, if you are able to maintain the tether for the entire time, which is going to be 8 seconds, then you end up generating 24 might for yourself, which increases your healing power by 240, which means that instead of healing for 1,000 with the Vigorous Shouts here, they would actually heal for 1,240, as far as I remember. But, just very cool. And then, not only that, if you did choose Failing Strength, then you're granting your allies 24 might, which is pretty good, I would say. It's over time, and the might only lasts, the allied might only lasts 4 seconds, so within 4 seconds you're granting them 12 might, but then it's going to start going away, and so it's like they're capped. However, the 24 stacks of might is very useful. And then also it's an extra pull. If you need to put some CC, sometimes I have actually had to use this, where I have been in a fractal and using this, and they need just a little bit more CC, and all my CC skills are on cooldown. Then I will Magebane Tether them and just run away, and then it will pull them and get that extra little bit of CC, and it stuns them, and then we end up actually being able to do some damage. So that's really this build. This is my idea for a supportive Spellbreaker. If you like this, I hope you did. If you like this, be sure and tell me, because I would love to put out more builds like this. I really love experimenting with new builds, especially on Warrior, because it's just my favorite class out of all of them. So yeah, if you like this build, if you want me to do more builds, please let me know. And I'm going to go experiment some more, actually, because I really like the idea of running dual daggers with this build. So, but anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.